Welcome to the Four Peaks Parents Podcast with Thomas Miller. Are you tired of your tweens, teens, and young adults' negative behaviors and poor choices holding you emotionally hostage, controlling your family, and ruling your life? Do you feel like you're riding an emotional roller coaster every time you walk into your house? If you answered yes, then you're in the right place. This podcast is a community for courageous parents just like you who come here to gain effective tools, skills, and learn concrete action steps that they can take to be more confident, calmer, and more empowered while parenting and changing their tween, teen, or young adult's life and improving their family's future. Welcome to the Four Peaks Parents Podcast with your host, Thomas Miller. Today's topic is what to do about cyberbullying if your kid is in fact being cyberbullied. This topic actually comes from someone who signed up for the newsletter and reached out and asked me a question, which is why I'm so geeked out and excited to dive into this topic. I love hearing directly from parents. Y'all are in the trenches. You know what's up. You know what you're struggling with. You know what's out there. And please, please, please continue to reach out to me because I want to make this as relevant to you and what your needs are. This is all about helping you navigate every single day in the trenches. You know, you're in the deep end, you're in the arena. So I'm so excited that this came directly from a parent. So one of the first things to realize is that prevention is like the best strategy, right? So we're going to talk a lot about like, how do you prevent some of these issues, as well as what the hell do you do if your kiddo's in the throngs of like a full-on cyberbully situation. The other cool thing is I am definitely not an expert on cyberbullying or how to navigate in the most efficacious way, safe use of the internet, but I happen to know someone who is. So I'm going to do everything I can to get them on this show. And I'm going to start pulling in some subject matter experts that I can interview that will just help to make this even more helpful, resourceful, and effective for y'all. So stay tuned for that. So one of the first things to just know about any topic we're going to cover on the show is your relationship is the greatest protective factor in the world, right? No matter what your kids say to you, and yes, definitely the parenting stock is decreasing these days, and the peer stock is increasing if we're talking about tweens, teens, and young adults, right? Avi, we're definitely not as cool as we used to be and in our kids' eyes. But at the end of the day, every research study under the sun will say that a secure, healthy relationship or attachment with a parent beats out almost every risk factor, or at least mitigates so many risk factors. So that's the first thing. Let's first do everything we can to establish, obviously, an open door. So one of the things when we're talking about cyberbullying, because obviously there's so much, things that are like on the fence of, is it cyberbullying or is it bullying, is we're really looking at negative, repeated patterns with intentionality to harm. So it's really important to make sure that there is a consistent situation there, right? We have to also, realize that without that open door, like I just talked about, if some shit is going down, our kid is going to be further isolated. And this bully person might have a PhD in button pushing. They might be a master manipulator and further isolating your kiddo, right? So again, prevention. Ask open-ended questions. Are you experiencing anything that would qualify as cyberbullying? How nasty are people online? Have you encountered just some hate, right? Are there kids in your school or externally drinking some haterade every day, right? And throwing shade at you? How do you manage that? So we really want to ask a lot of open-ended questions on the front end, which is super, super, super important. The reason why kids get entrenched in a lot of this crap, cyberbullying and other kinds of things, is that they feel embarrassed, right? It's embarrassing to go to your peers or your parents and to tell them this is happening. Even with the best, most trusted, safest, most connected, most open door relationship with parents, kids often again, feel shame. They feel embarrassed. They don't want to be atypical. They don't want to appear vulnerable or weak. They don't want to feel like they're right a social leper. So that's why they're probably going to push this underground for a little bit, which again is why we want to really ask those open-ended questions, and we want to really do everything we can to model an open door. So they're also probably going through that whole fight or flight, right? I mean, if someone is a master manipulator who is really good, unfortunately, at making your kids feel weak or feel bad, or they're using statements they've made against them, or they could even be sharing some screenshots or reposting something, or just doing the most horrific, horrible things, right, to make your kid feel terrible, they're going to be that much more nervous. And at times they might fall into, if you think of the fight or flight reaction, which we tend to mostly know about, but there's also a third reaction to trauma or traumatic things, which is freeze, right? Think of a deer in the headlights. So if your kid is going through that fight, flight, or freeze, and now they're frozen, right, they're going to be less apt to come to you and ask for help. They, a lot of times, because this person might be really good, unfortunately, at leaning into them and again, using scare tactics or creating a power and control situation where they're on top of that pyramid and your kiddo's on the bottom, which again is horrible. My heart goes out to that child as well as you as the parent. They're going to feel that much more nervous to take action. And so they might choose a powerless sort of play rather than a powerful play, right? And a lot of times kids think that you are going to make things worse, right? That's like such a typical thing. I've been working as a therapist with teens, oh my God, since 2000. I have treated thousands of teens. I've had thousands of teens in my office. And thousands of those times, teens have used me as a resource and a guide and as a Sherpa. And we together have been able to collectively come up with some great strategies, and I've given kids agency and helped them be assertive and helped them face stuff. And a lot of times that can work. A lot of times, though, kids that I've worked with, their perception of the reality of the situation is often a little off. It's called reality testing. That's like when you test their reality against the actual reality of the situation. Sometimes their perception is that this thing is like giant sized or the size of Mount Everest, when in fact it's actually a molehill or an anthill. Other times they think, it's no big deal, I got this, it's an anthill, when in fact it's the size of Mount Everest. So you just have to know that kids often, their perception is not necessarily accurate. And so often as a therapist, I never wanted to get marooned on an island with a tween or a teen. And so I'd always encourage them, of course, let's pull in mom or dad, right? Let's get more resources. And then we can explore, do we need to involve the school? Do we need to do this, and that, right? But their immediate reaction, you just have to know, is that y'all are going to make it worse, right? So you really want to not tread lightly because, again, something might be pretty, crazy going on and pretty egregious, and they might be knee deep in that cyberbullying situation. But the key thing is when and if they come to you or when and if you ask and they volunteer and let you in, you cannot freak out. I've had, unfortunately, so many parents in my office that have contrived these beautiful family sessions and set the kid up for success and really been like motivating that kid, to finally tell mom and dad that they're gay or trans or they've been struggling with eating issues or cutting, or there might have been, unfortunately, cyberbullying or even something even more horrible going on. And then eventually the parent, first reaction, this is like classic. Why didn't you tell me? I can't believe you didn't tell me. This has been going on for how long, right? So that immediately communicates to the child and conveys that they did something wrong. And your anger is only going to further send them underground. And if you remember previous podcast episodes where we talk about icebergs sink ships and they also sink families too, the fact that we're raising the iceberg or your child is choosing to raise the iceberg is awesome. And that's what we want more of, right? So if they're panicking and freezing, right, they could be getting manipulated, as I said, threatened, maybe grooming. They're going to feel less and less powerful and capable and hopeless and helpless over time. So this is why, again, when we come in, we gotta come in calmly and we got to empower them. I know I said in a previous episode, do not reassure your kids or accommodate your kids. That's all about if they have OCD or anxiety. So I'm about to say something that does not go against that. But you do need to reassure your child when they do tell you that they're in the midst of a cyberbullying situation, that first off, I love you, right? You love them, right? Thank you. Support them. Reassure them that you're going to be with them no matter how nasty or crazy this whole situation gets. Appreciate them for coming forward. Thank them, right, for their courage. So that's really important, right? Reassure them that no matter how much this, shit gets real, so to speak, you got their back. Okay. The other thing, first and foremost, immediately, is as much as you as a parent, like, trust me, I got a serious mother cub inside me, like, not mother cub, sorry. If my cubs are around, I got that serious like bear mom reaction, like I want to protect my cubs, and I want to like totally like, oh my God, like attack someone who's attacking my child. But that is not a good look, right? That's just going to make a really hot mess situation messier. And we really want this person, whether it's a teen or a tween or potentially, hopefully it's not an adult, to have egg on their face. And we want to be able to get out of this situation as fast and as, with at least blood, if you will, on our hands. So help your child step away from the computer and or the device, like take a break, because engaging or debating with a debater or engaging with a manipulator, you're not going to win, right? And it's only going to further promulgate that there's maybe evidence or, things that now make the situation more equal, when in fact, if we need to get the school involved or get the police involved or whoever involved, you want to help your kid exit stage left as soon as humanly possible, not only for their mental health and their emotionality and just to decompress and reset, but again, just so we don't want to look like it's a 50-50. We want the situation to be unclear for whomever to realize who is the perpetrator, right, and who is the victim. And again, if I haven't made it clear, and I think you know what cyberbullying is, but just want to like cover, cyberbullying is complicated, right? It could start rather benign because again, they could be grooming, and grooming is where someone is actually potentially like love bombing someone or being positive on the front end and slowly but surely like eradicating your kid's boundaries. We could talk definitely in further episodes about grooming and how people will actually shift someone's boundary radar. So over time, their radar doesn't go off when something clearly is a violation of their boundaries. And that could be emotional, physical, obviously, sexual, spiritual, etc. Just anyone that's obviously doing something for effect to earn trust and make someone's boundary radar be a little murky and not go off as cleanly. It could be instant messages. It could be, again, posting or reposting embarrassing photos or videos. It could be spreading rumors, particularly if it's someone in your kid's school, right? They might have access to like personal information and be really working, right, that social channel of the school. So it's really like hurtful stuff. And it's definitely not something to take lightly, right? There is definitely bullying that's going to happen to your kids, and there's gradations of that, right? There's cyberbullying and or bullying that unfortunately at some point is going to happen to your kids. And a child not being invited to a birthday party is not bullying, right? That's just life, right? Someone dumping someone or someone not friending someone or someone rejecting someone, that's not bullying, right? Again, we're looking for repeated, intentional patterns of trying to hurt someone that are pretty vicious and pretty rough. You might even know who the bully is. Like your kid might know who the bully is, right? And that's interesting, right? That's a whole different feeling than not knowing who the bully is. And I think sometimes what we forget as parents is, which I've had some people hate on me on social, which is actually a sign of success, by the way. If we get some hate, particularly on social, if you're someone like myself who's certainly trying to promote their podcast and their business and things like that, that's okay. It's easy for me to kind of take space from that, right? To have emotional distance from that. It's a lot harder if this is someone in my inner world or someone that I have to see every freaking day, right? Someone who might really be working their way to infiltrate my peer group. Someone might be trying to take my boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. I mean, some of the stuff that your kids either are enduring or may endure is really freaking rough. And again, so let's really validate first and foremost that this is like a challenge and your kids are struggling. If they are in fact struggling, validate how they feel. Definitely don't be aloof. Don't tell them to suck it up. Stand inside their story, join with them, meet them where they're at. The other thing that we do a lot as parents, myself included, is we like hijack the wheel. And that's not really the best approach. Now, again, like I said earlier, sometimes kids minimize, right, perceptually what's really going on. They're like, I got this. And you like really start unearthing what the hell's going on. And you're like, holy crap, right? In the back of your head, you may already know that this is a legal issue, or you might have to, definitely get administration involved, or lawyer up, or involve the police. But you still need to, on the front end, at least listen to where they're at and try to pull them in to creating solutions with you, right? That way they can feel empowered and not immediately you recreating the same power differential that's already, ensuing. As crazy as this sounds, or if it is someone that your kids know, believe it or not, I still believe in a world where a parent can reach out to a parent of that teen or tween or young adult and be like, hey, we need to chat. We need to talk. Here's what's going down. Let's kind of work through this. Trust me, there are crazy parents in the world who will double, triple down, defend their kids, oh my God, to the death, and not, unfortunately, hold their kids accountable, and not, unfortunately, be willing to look objectively at their child's behaviors. None of those parents, I don't think, are listening to this podcast. So big up to you if you're listening to this podcast. You're clearly here, part of this community, because you want to level up, right? You want to go good to great with your own parenting toolbox, skills, strategies, etc., so that you can reshape and reset the relationship you have with your child and literally change the trajectory of their life and your family's life. Super cool. So happy to be a part of this community and be your guide. And I'm so psyched about, again, today's topic, which came out of the community. Don't forget that in the notes, the description of this podcast, there's a way for you to sign up for the newsletter and have direct to your inbox the newsletter that's chock full of parenting tips, tools, strategies, etc. And if ever you're in the throngs of some serious cyberbullying issue or any issue, and you want to explore what it would be like to work more directly with me or be a part of the Four Peaks Parents Program, where I take parents through a 90-day journey from where they currently are to high performing, high functionality, where you can finally have peace and finally go to sleep and feel like you have your child and your family back. So those are always opportunities. So anyway, coming back to this situation, if it's a kid in your kid's school, yeah, let's reach out to that parent, right? Try to remain calm as much as you want to be like, do you realize your son is or daughter is like a psycho? Try to remain calm and take an exploratory win-win approach with them, okay? If that's obviously going nowhere and the behaviors aren't stopping and they're uber defensive and maybe even go on the attack, you're like, yeah, now I know where this apple fell from the tree, right? Then you're going to have to contact the school. You really do. And I hate to say it, but we do live in a litigious world, right? So document. I'm the biggest fan of, first and foremost, getting a meeting with the administration, having a conversation. Hopefully, again, the administration of that school is open and apt to step into a leadership role and try to create an intervention that will create, right, an equal playing field, and obviously put this to bed. If you don't feel that's happening, which really sucks, then you might have to reach out and get a lawyer involved, et cetera, et cetera. But before we go boom right to lawyer, before we hijack the wheel from our kids, again, let's encourage our child to be solution oriented. Hey, what have you tried, right? What has worked? What hasn't worked? What haven't you tried? What can we try? What role do you want to take in this? What role should I take? And then you can have them almost assign you different tasks. There's a lot of research that shows kids standing up for each other is incredibly effective in stopping bullying. So if they haven't already enlisted their little army of friends, they should do that and not go and bully that person, but basically just show a sign of solidarity, because bullies are always looking for the next target. They're looking for the weak link. Not that I want that bully to just move on and run roughshod all over that school, but we definitely want to obviously make sure that your kids feel like they have a support system. One of the things I do all the time with the families that I coach, I always tell them to send an email to the school, or obviously if you got the police involved, to just summarize the meeting. Okay, here's what we talked about. Just want to make sure you're clear. This is in fact what's happening. This is my child's experience. Here's what's happening. You can include screenshots if you'd like, but I would definitely take screenshots of any little text or message or anything on Snap. So you have that for the future, God forbid, right? And then what were the proposed strategies or plans? And then what's the timeline? And you definitely want to hold them to that and follow up with them. Big fan of document. And so the other thing is you could even reach out. And again, I'm so excited to have a buddy of mine. I don't want to say who it is just yet but she's an expert in helping families navigate the social media world safely. She's like amazing. She's an expert in that. So I'm going to get her, twist her arm and get her on here in the near future. So she'll have tons of great advice as well. Digital companies and cell phone providers actually can be helpful. They really can. So you can reach out to them as well. You can explore, right, how to block this person. What are, from a technical standpoint, some of your options. And the moment this is just like showstopper right here. If your child's being threatened, now again, harassment, totally cyberbullying, not cool. Follow all the strats I put in this podcast. But if anyone is threatening your child, obviously an adult especially, but any peer, you got to go to the police. It's incredibly important to make sure that crap stops. And just like with everything, where we started is that like the open door is the key to everything. You want to always model for your kids, no matter how much crap or shit they get into, you can come to me. Now, there might be stuff that they are actually guilty of. They maybe did go back and forth. Maybe they did say something also provocative or got, instigated or this or that or said something that was also nasty. You'll deal with that. There's teachable moments there. But you want to just check in and help them remain grounded in the here and now. And other episodes already that are out there that you can look into. There's so many ways to help your kids, right? Stay emotionally regulated versus dysregulated. But big fan of mindfulness skills, and we'll talk more about mindfulness skills in future episodes. Huge fan, though, of helping your kids to remain calm, right? Find 5 things that are blue in their midst. Find 3 things that are triangular or whatever shape. Take 3 breaths. Teach them to breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 5, breathe out for 8. We really want to help them stay emotionally grounded. The other thing I'm a huge fan of is, depending upon what's going on, they should go to school. Obviously, if it's somehow not safe for them to go to school, they shouldn't go to school. If you're going to give a kid a mental health day or afternoon, fine. Not a big fan of the mental health week or month, because then we have future problems on our hands, which now we're creating. Kind of, if you go back to the episode, why accommodating or reassuring your kid is not healthy. We just don't want them, right, to be avoiding the situation. We want them to get back on the horse, get back into soccer, lacrosse, dance, art, theater, whatever they're doing as quickly as possible. That's a healthy power play for them. And it also will allow their brain to get inoculated against whatever the stress is around returning to school and possibly facing that bully. And again, as much as we wish this didn't happen, there is an opportunity that this whole situation is a way for them to grow. I'm a big fan of positive psychology, big fan of looking at adversity, not trauma, adversity as an opportunity to develop greater resiliency, grit, to become more empowered, to have more agency. So I think if you run through this whole episode again, there's so much here. The key again is have that open door. Help them to figure out what the solutions are. Don't just rely on them, of course, perceptually to deem whether this is like no biggie or biggie. Really look at it. Don't immediately hijack the wheel. Don't immediately lawyer up, but you may need to. You may need to get the police involved. The key thing is to affirm that you're with them all along. Give them tips and tools to navigate how to stay calm. Definitely have them cease and desist immediately. Block that person. Again, take all the pictures first to keep kind of CYA it, right? If you involve the school administration, make sure you send up an email to document that. And at the end of the day, you will get through this. So will your kid. And realize that the more you can model, right? Regulated behavior, you can create co-regulated behavior and allow them to feel that much more safe, secure, and strong. So, what's crazy about this topic is thank God, thank God there were no phones when I was in high school. Not that obviously I was cyberbullying or would have cyberbullied, but just this idea of like, just to enter your kid's world for a second, like everything they've said or done has a digital footprint. That's such a crazy thing. And it's in the back of their head. And I think a lot of times as parents, we assume because they're in this world, like they get that. But I think we've become anesthetized to how every aspect of their life potentially can live on in infamy or live on forever. I mean, I grew up in Long Island, and thank God the streets don't talk. And thank God there was no phones, because there's a whole bunch of dumb shit and oh my God, stupid choices I made that thank God. I hope I'm not asking for anyone to pull that up. But that thank God we're not recorded. And I can't even imagine. So that's just another thing too that can come out of this conversation from a teachable moment standpoint, is just helping your kids understand. Now, this doesn't mean you want your kids to be terrified and they're going to poop a diamond the next time they think to post something or say something online. But it is super important that they have to think about everything they say or do, right, potentially is going to live on. And so if someone is cyberbullying them, right, really important that they, again, as we've already talked about, don't engage, don't get back and forth, because again, that could be used against them down the line to not only weaken their case potentially against this person, but also that they themselves, right, might be further entrenching themselves or digging themselves in a hole. So just remember that everything they say, do, post is potentially can come back to haunt them. And there is a legacy to their life online. And I think what happens, particularly with young adults, is that when they're online, even though again they grow up in it and we assume they got it, they don't always have it. And there is this layer of anonymity that social media provides, which makes people, more apt to say horrible crap that they wouldn't otherwise say, or post horrible things or do horrible things, where there isn't a feedback, right? They're in this feedback vacuum, which is why kids are not usually as nasty bullying wise. Of course, they can be in real life, but they're often way worse in VL, virtual life, right? So these again are great opportunities. Another thing just to realize is that, there are mean girls, mean boys, mean kids, and there are kids that do dumb things and are impulsive, but then they show guilt, remorse, and empathy. And that's why, again, as much as we immediately sometimes want to go to like the big, lawyer up or get the whatever involved, there is an opportunity for what's called a corrective emotional experience or restorative justice, particularly with that, parent. You never want to ask your kid to try to work something out with a bully because there's a power differential there. But if you get involved with their parent and their parent, thank God, or hopefully is appropriate, or you get the school involved and the school, thank God, is hopefully appropriate, and they're going to do some restorative justice opportunity where your son or daughter could, in a good way, be assertive and confront, not in an aggressive way, but really assertive and have agency. That's such a huge win for that school, that community, and for that other child. Now, if we're dealing with a child who might meet the criteria for what's called conduct disorder, that's a child that doesn't have the capacity for guilt or remorse. I mean, they might even be seriously violating the rights of others. They might be engaging in deceitfulness behavior, destruction of property. They could even be hurting animals. I mean, that's a child that should not be in that school system. Now, that's not for you or anyone else to diagnose. That child obviously would need to meet criteria for that diagnosis, and then they would need what's called a token economy vis-a-vis a residential therapeutic school, an RTC, a residential treatment center. But let's hope that's not the case. That's what we're talking about. So let's see what it is. Those answers sort of will present themselves throughout this process as you go through advocating for your child and working those channels. We'll get more and more and more and more data. All right, people, if you need anything else, you can always reach out. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter. And again, if you ever need, me to really dive in with you and work on a one-on-one direct basis, I'm ready to take you there. All right. You have a wonderful, wonderful day. Be well. Hey everyone, Thomas here. First off, it means the world to me that you took the time to listen to my podcast. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Also, if you want to receive the latest podcast updates, as well as expert parenting tips and practical strategies for navigating your tween, teen, or young adults challenges directly to your inbox, then sign up for my newsletter. The link is in the description. And most importantly, if you're tired of feeling overwhelmed, stuck, stressed, and are losing sleep because you're constantly worried about your tween, teen, or young adult, your first step is to realize that you still have a choice and can do something about it. I'm ready to help you take action and create the results you desire today. Just go to 4peaksparents.com and book a free strategy call. Let's do this. Last thing, while you were listening to this show, who was the one person that you thought could really benefit from hearing it? Please share it with them.